afternoon and welcome back to Coffee with a Kick. I am Alexander. Whoa, full name today apparently, and that's Keegan. And we've just finished it up, that Match Week 22 midweek action. Some really thrilling matches, I thought, this midweek. Some that had were more exciting than they deserved to be in the end, to be honest. And we will jump right into it right after you go ahead and like and subscribe to the video or whatever. Drop us a comment. We didn't hear from Flynn21. Rip Flynn21. It's because I called him out in the last one as being a burner account for Jurgen Klopp. He figured out that he couldn't come back from that. But we did make it over 100 subs in the meantime. Now, the person who was the 100 sub doesn't have their subs public, so I can't figure out who it was. If you think you're the 100th, go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll like it on the video. So we will go ahead, though, and get right into the action with Nottingham Forest versus Arsenal for the beginning of the match week. They're back on Tuesday. A 1-2 victory for Arsenal at City Ground. And this one was pretty well controlled by Arsenal, I felt. They were in control for the most part throughout the majority of the match. But it was, Taiwo Awoniyi almost came through from Nottingham. Did come through in the 89th minute, but almost in stoppage time came back and actually stole a point for Nottingham, which would have been quite something, considering how Arsenal had dominated most of the match.
Yeah, pretty interesting one. Arsenal played a little better than I was expecting. Kind of left it there at the end to, like you said, I mean, it honestly could have been a draw. I feel like once Arsenal went up 2-0, they kind of got a little lazy when it came to possession, when it came to man marking. So, yeah, I think they escaped with a win. 72nd minute prior, I mean, first 72 minutes looked great. After that, they kind of looked a little shaky.
Yeah, a little too much foot off the gas there. They got to keep it going. But, in the end, it's a win. It sets up a huge match this weekend for Arsenal and Liverpool. We will get to that tomorrow on Saturday when we come out with our prediction episode. Or maybe I'll post it later tonight. I don't know. Well, you'll see it come up. It'll come through. Anyways, we move on from there to Fulham and Everton. It's 0-0, right? Oh, also, we both got that one wrong. The first. No, I got that one right. I said that Arsenal would win. You said that they would draw. So you're almost right on the nose, 2-2, but not quite. We both got this one wrong because we thought someone would win. Instead, it was a 0-0 draw. However, pretty exciting 0-0 draw, all things to be considered. Like it was not bereft of entertainment.
Yeah, definitely one where I felt like either team ought to have gotten a goal. Fulham obviously dominated much of the possession, but a lot of shots in this one. 46 total shots. Yeah. Only 10 on target, but it seemed like both teams were really trying to get back into form. Mm-hmm. And neither team could finally get that breakthrough. But, I mean, you hit it on the head. It was exciting. I think Fulham probably should have come out with a point or 3 points, but it was a worthy draw for both.
Yeah, I mean, coming down to the last couple of minutes, both teams had a really good shot at it. I mean, Jordan Pickford saved Everton on his own, and the woodwork saved Fulham on their side. But in the end, yeah, I think both teams can come away with this actually somewhat disappointed that they didn't get the 3, but more so for Everton because they slipped back down into the relegation zone because of this surprising next result, Luton Town beating Brighton 4-0? Is that right? What happened here? I'll tell you what happened. It's what we've said about Brighton all year long. They tend to start off slow, and if they get punched in the mouth, they crumple. They don't come back. And that was this one to a T against Luton. It was not a good look.
Yeah, this one was ugly from start to finish. I mean, a first-minute goal, it looked like after the first minute, Brighton looked stunned.
Yeah.
And you're at Luton, so, I mean, their crowd was just electric. And then it just kind of felt like third minute, they get another goal. And after that, it was kind of smooth sailing. I didn't really feel like Brighton ever looked like they were going to get back into the game.
And really, I shouldn't count this one against us that we both got it wrong, because Luton got their captain back. You know, he was up in the stands there, coming back from his cardiac arrest scare back earlier in the season. So I think we should
information to not have known.
Yeah. I think our pick should have been voided for this one. But Adebayo looked really good in this one against, Brighton just didn't show up. Really, is what ended up happening, and they've still got work to do. Okay, they are not out of the woods by far, Brighton, if they're not careful.
At one point I think Brighton was in the top 5 on like 24 or 25 points, and since then they've only gotten 6 or 7 over the last like 10 match weeks. It's been kind of crazy to see their rise and then their fall.
Boy, man, they're just so up and down. I mean, they beat Tottenham just after Christmas, 4-2.
Yeah.
So, you just can't tell with Brighton this year. All right, that then moves us from Luton Town into the last match. Oh no, we got one more before that. Crystal Palace and Sheffield United, 3-2 victory for Crystal Palace. This one, another very exciting match. Gutsy win, I said, by Crystal Palace here.
Yeah, pretty good win for Crystal Palace. Again, another first-minute goal.
Yeah,
I just feel like Crystal Palace was not expecting Sheffield to kind of press and push up like they did. But first-minute goal, tough to consider. I feel like their response after McAtee put Sheffield back up. So Eze scored 17th minute, McAtee scores 20th minute. The response after that was impressive.
Yeah, and also for the goal that it was, because that was a nasty dipper there by McAtee in the 20th minute. I mean, it was a cheeky shot by far. Yeah. Eze had that nice karate kick for their first one, but he had a great laser there for the second one, the 27th. And then Elise, the problem for Crystal, though, is that they lose both Elise and Mateta there in the second half. Both go off injured. Don't know how long they're going to be out. But listen, that's a lot of goal production for your side coming off the pitch. So that's definitely something to watch out for going forward with Crystal Palace. Not what they wanted. I mean, they're glad for the 3 points, but, it came at a cost.
Yeah, I mean, both guys are big goal contributors, whether assisting or scoring or just being a body that the other
being
team
space
can
hogs.
score.
Yeah, just gravitational pulls.
Especially Mateta, I feel like he is, when he gets on the pitch, both center backs are tracking him. So that's gonna be hard to replace.
Yeah. And as it can only do so much there, and then we go to the last match day of Tuesday. With another surprising result, but maybe we should stop saying it's surprising, because Aston Villa, it seems like we've talked about this with several other teams, that they go up to the top of the table or near the top of the table, and then for the next 2 months they just drop like a stone. It happened with Newcastle earlier this season. It's happened with Brighton, and now Aston Villa, they continue their slide from their peak of in second, now down to 5th. And almost a full 10 points out of first at this point, after being 1 point out just after the Christmas break there. And Newcastle's defense is back in form after back to like last year.
They're scoring all their goals too. It's just their defense.
Sure. Getting the 2 header goals there in the 32nd and 36th minute. But Aston Villa, I mean, they were trying. They had a lot of good possession there in the first quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. A lot of good stuff on Aston Villa, but just the organization in Newcastle wasn't allowing any of those avenues that Aston Villa usually takes advantage of.
Yeah, it was honestly kind of a weird formation by Aston Villa. Typically, they do a 4-3-3. Mm-hmm. This time they deployed a 4-2 or a 4-4-2, and they had 3 players who have played center defensive mid at one point in the season. But, I mean, they really only had 1 attacking mid, 3 central midfielders who are not really attackers. And I think that really took them off of their normal rhythm, because Diaby is usually on the wing. This time he was kind of on the wing, kind of in the middle. It just felt from the get-go that their formation kind of like stalled them, and it was really hard to get into the game. So I don't know. They definitely are a 4-3-3 team and play their best when they have 3 wingers. Yeah. So I don't know if it was injury that caused that shift. If it was a coaching decision, it was the wrong one, because they got outclassed in this one.
Yeah, I'd suggest not making that coaching decision again if it was one. Yeah, because they did not look like a team who was knocking on the door first just a few weeks ago. We'll see if they can get back in right standing with how they've been before. Who do they have next up? They've got Sheffield United, so it's a good team to do it against. And then we move to Wednesday with and City has done this a couple times recently. Just a really nice dull. What should have been another perfect pick for me, a 3-0 victory, but they fell asleep in the 90+3. But I mean, this one was, pretty much bread and butter. It's pretty easy here for City. KDB being back just it brings it all into fruition. They looked like City in this match.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. It seemed like once Alvarez got his brace there within 6 minutes. Yeah, a couple of times it kind of felt like we were forcing it to him to try to get his hat trick.
On his birthday, right? It was his birthday or close to it.
Yeah, no, I think I want to say it was his birthday.
24th birthday, yeah.
Yeah, 24 and has won every possible major trophy. But all that to say, what are you doing at 24? And it just seemed like once we got up 2-0, we kind of foresaw what was going on. Pep spurred us on. Second half, come out hot, 46th minute. It definitely fell asleep. It's tough for the goal difference, tough to not get the clean sheet. And that kind of summarizes City's season for the past 15 matches. It's like we either kill a team or we beat them just enough to where we're let's just give them a goal. I don't know, but overall it was pretty solid.
Yeah. Also an Erling Haaland sighting, although it was a rusty sighting. I mean, he had a couple chances that normally he slots away or at least gets an attempt off and doesn't whiff on it and fall to the ground like he did with one of them there. I mean, it's limited. It was funny him getting subbed out, him coming in for KDB, because he probably would have preferred playing with him because they have such a good connection. But
it was a big match because we had Grealish, Doku, and Haaland make their returns, and De Bruyne started, so we're kind of full force now. Hopefully that
you look at the 22-man side, and it is scary. That 18-man roster when they come into the match day is like, boy, we've got 18 guys who can start on other teams in our match sheet. It's a nice feeling. It's a good feeling to have. But yeah, City wiped the floor with Burnley. It was tough. It was tough. And then we go to Spurs and Brentford, and the Spurs found a way to win in the end. They gave up a 15-minute to Mopay. What was my note here for this? This makes 7 goals in 7 games for Richarlison. Madison is back. It took them a little bit to work into the side, but once they hit the second half, Spurs were clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, really good response from Tottenham. I mean, that looked like the Tottenham that started the year off unbeaten in their first 7, I think. You got 3 different guys scoring, 2 wingers. I think Udogie is a defender. But I mean, yeah, they look great. I think in the 67th minute, they just got caught sleeping. I didn't feel like after Brentford scored the goal that Brentford was then going to come back and draw. But yeah, overall, kind of a game that we both saw as potentially high scoring, a potentially good one.
Actually, I did end up getting this one exactly right. After I heard That I initially said 2-2, but then you said Madison was back. I'm like, okay, well let me have Spurs win this one.
Intel is important.
Yeah, he's very important. It didn't feel like it, but Brentford did almost get a point out of this. In stoppage time, Baptiste almost got a goal in, but it was saved at the last second. So it was close, and it would have been disappointing for Tottenham for sure because they had worked well for the win. But they go in and they're back up. They're now in fourth and nip it on the heels there. Depending on how this weekend goes, they could. Well, no, they can't. No, they can't. They might be level on points with Arsenal and City. Probably not. Probably not. But they could be. And now, where am I going? I'm going now to Chelsea. Really getting ramshackled by Liverpool. It was tough. It was not close at all.
Yeah, this one, from the get-go, it looked like Liverpool. I'm not going to say it was because of the Klopp news, but they looked like they were like pushing for something different.
They were locked in.
Yeah. I mean, they dominated from start to finish.
Yeah.
And Kunku's goal was fine, but really just a consolation. It wasn't ever. Chelsea just didn't have a ton of fight in this one. They had a lot of the ball, but not a ton of fight.
They kind of fell into the defensive disorganization that we saw so much early in the season from them, where you predicted very well that they were going to have trouble probably through the end of the calendar year. Well, unfortunately, it's bled over to 2024 as well, and it's they need to figure something out because they are still 10th place for Chelsea is not an acceptable result, That is not where the vaunted Chelsea is supposed to be.
You look at the match stats, and possession and passes almost even. Shots, 28-4, and shots on target, 13-3. So even though they had the ball the same amount of time, Liverpool just really capitalized on how they used it. And I feel like that was probably Liverpool's best game they played all year.
Yeah,
I didn't see really any mistakes.
I mean, with 13 shots on goal, it was It was Darwin Nunez hit the uprights, hit the woodwork 4 times, I think, across the game. He just could not put one in. Right, those aren't even shots on goal; they're just almost shots on goal. So you could almost put that number up at 17. So, 4-1 is lucky, essentially is what we're saying for Chelsea. Because that was ugly and could have been uglier, as a matter of fact. Tough. And then we move into yesterday's action. Thursday the 1st, West Ham saves a point against Bournemouth. This one was weird because I felt like we got this right after the penalty by James Ward-Prowse. I felt like both teams were like, we're good. Let's just draw. I don't feel like we need to do anything else in this match the rest of the time. Nothing happened, I felt like.
Yeah, this one, classic West Ham. They were definitely the better side coming in. They're the better side on the table. But it seemed like they played down to Bournemouth's level. And, not a ton of action. The penalty, like you said, happened in the 61st minute. And, it just felt like both teams were okay with, let's get a sub in. Let's kind of have some possession. Maybe looking forward to the weekend to get a little rest. I don't know if that was just an amicable thing both teams decided, but it definitely didn't look like either team was eager to win.
Yeah, it was weird. And then we wrap up the weekend action with a sour note, for myself at least. My Wolves fall 3-4 to Manchester United. You can't say we didn't try, okay? You can't say we didn't try. After our penalty in the 71st minute, you could feel there was some life back in it. Stupid McTominay, comes in and scores in the 75th. So you're like, okay, it's 3-1, 75th minute. It's fine. No. We come back and get another 2 goals. Pedro Neto came back out, looked great in this match. It was his first match back. You could tell that he is the cog that we have been missing in some of these matches for offense recently. I'm so happy to see him back. And I think that bodes well for the rest of the season. But, drawing level 3-3, 90 plus 5, and then we give up the 90 plus 7 goal to United. Really hurt. And we couldn't get the fourth goal after the 90 plus 7.
Yeah, it seemed like the shock of even getting back to 3-3 really it felt like the game was over after that. It felt like Wolves just were not, their mentality just went to we drew, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then United just comes back and they score the 90 plus 7. And I don't know, it's a sour note. I felt like it was fitting that Wolves would come back and draw given what happened in the previous in the reverse fixture, but United, they stayed in it. They kept the belief and they got it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess good for United or whatever. Bumps them up. They're now in 7th. We could have leapfrogged them. It would have been so sweet, so good.
Yeah.
But 'twasn't to be. 'Twas not to be. What? Yeah. Do we miss our trivia? Or are we going to leave that for the prediction episode?
Dude, we can do our trivia question in this one and the answer in the next video.
Ooh, a little teaser. Okay, that sounds good. Before we get to that, though, for the week I went 4-6. I'm back up to somewhat respectable after my 2-8. You maintained your 3-7. I did have a perfect pick because of that Tottenham Brentford game. So that brings us to 90. What am I? I'm 92 and 116, and you were up to 87 and 119. We got to fix it. We got to get back going good. But before we get out of here, what is the trivia question that we will answer in the next episode?
The question is, who holds the record tied with Alan Shearer? So that's one guy. Who holds the record tied with Alan Shearer for the most penalty misses in Premier League history?
Penalty misses. All right. You heard the man. Who is tied with Alan Shearer for the most penalty misses? Did you say in a career or in a season?
Just Premier League history.
In Premier League history, who has the most Premier League penalty kick, spot kick misses? Well, if you know, go ahead and drop a comment, and you'll feel proud and accomplished when we come up to the next episode, and you're right. So, until then, until our next episode comes out, which will be tomorrow, before matches start, or maybe later today. I haven't decided yet, obviously. Why don't you go ahead and grab your coffee, watch some soccer, and we will see you on the other side.